It's Friday, guys. As promised, we're finally moving out of the apartment into a normal house. Let's go inside. I'll give you guys a brief little house tour. I'm not a little rice gum or one of these phase boys that tries to like flex. This is nothing crazy, but it is a really nice house, in my opinion. So we're gonna check it out. I'll give you guys a little brief tour. So let's get into it. First up, guys, we've got this little office space here / reading nook. We're gonna throw some bookcases over here on this wall. It's gonna be a great spot to be educated. Now, if you guys follow me, we got a little guest bathroom. It is what it is. And then our living room space / kitchen, which, by the way, guys, this has got to be the largest fridge that I've ever seen. Like, I'm not a small dude. I know you guys think I'm like 3'8" or whatever the fuck it is. But this is the biggest fridge I've ever seen in my entire life. Completely unexpected, but really, really cool. This is a great little space. There's so much space in here that I could literally do a little cartwheel. It's pretty cool. And then standard master bathroom stuff, toilet, and a walk-in closet that I will not ever see my clothes in. It's only gonna be my girlfriend's clothes. Back in the living room here, guys, as you guys can hear, there's a huge ass echo. But we got a nice little gas fireplace, not a real fireplace, and then a vaulted ceiling, which is very fortunate in this house. You know, we're not trying to spend millions of dollars here, and I can assure you guys this house is not even close to that. Nowhere close to it. We're living in a pretty inexpensive area, which is actually nice, because we're able to buy more for less money. And that's the smart way to go. Always do that. Got a nice little view down to the main entrance area. It's pretty cool. We got this like theater area. I'm gonna convert it into a theater. Put like a little projection screen down, projector right here, pretty cool. And then we have 3 identical guest bedrooms that are going to be converted into closets. And that is where you guys are going to see the videos, the new ones that are coming out. In fact, I might even film a video in here. We'll see. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this unofficial house tour. Maybe I'll give you one when it's furnished, but it's pretty cool, man. I'm excited, very excited.
If you're looking for a pet or an animal companion that's more self-reliant than pretty much any other animal, a crow might be your answer. A lot of people didn't know this, but you can actually befriend crows. This TikTok that I got tagged in shows this girl feeding a crow out of the palm of her hand, and then her and the crow just hanging out, being the best of friends. So I'm sure this is pretty common knowledge by now, but crows are actually extremely smart. They've been able to demonstrate problem-solving skills, and they're able to recognize people's faces individually. Because of this, crows are actually able to build bonds with humans, but just like any other relationship, it does take some time to build up that trust. There are tons of stories online of people having experiences with crows and the crows paying them back. And if you're curious enough, you can even find tutorials on how to befriend crows and potentially build a relationship like this.
Oh my god, that's a big... Oh, you...
Yeah, I never watch Animal Planet. This is paralysis turtle.
I guess I just didn't get the memo, but I wasn't aware that we were getting a new species of turtle today. The clip that you guys just watched is pretty ridiculous. It shows a person bent over, picking up a turtle, and then promptly collapsing, passing out. And then this guy pops in talking about how this is a paralysis turtle. Now, I'm just gonna cut right to the chase. Paralysis turtles do not exist. The idea that you could just pick up a turtle and it paralyzes you for doing so is ridiculous. Instead, what we were looking at was a snapping turtle. Still though, snapping turtles do not have any inherent ability to make somebody pass out. Rather, this person probably passed out from something known as hypotension. This is another word for low blood pressure. It's the same exact thing where when you're sitting down and you stand up too quickly, you get lightheaded. You can pass out from that. This could also be an ear issue with losing balance, but either way, it's not a paralysis turtle.
These are not water drops, these are spider eyes.
I'm feeling nice today, so I'm going to give you guys one warning. If you hate spiders, scroll now. This is probably going to ruin your day or night. This TikTok video that I got tagged in shows this person recording their front lawn, and in the grass here we can see a bunch of small glistening objects. The caption here says, "Did you know that the sparkle in the grass isn't dew, it's spiders?" I'm sorry to tell you guys, this is actually true. A lot of people might not know this, but spiders, specifically their eyes, are reflective, meaning if you shine light on their eyes at nighttime, you're going to clearly be able to see them. This is because spiders have something known as a tapetum in their eye. This is actually meant to reflect light so they're able to see better at nighttime. The same type of situation when you're looking at a cat and you can see its eyes glowing at night. Combine that with the fact there are probably thousands of grass spiders in the front lawn of your house at any given time, and you're going to end up with this sparkling illusion here.
If your hamster does this, take them to the vet.
Money!
I'm certainly not a hamster expert, but I can tell you right now this is not normal at all, and you might need to be worried. This video that I got tagged in shows this hamster displaying some very odd behavior, climbing up these steps, standing up as soon as it gets to the top, and toppling backwards. And this happens multiple times and apparently has been going on for the past hour. So this condition is actually somewhat common, a lot of hamsters have it, and it's known as stargazing. There are also a variety of different causes with varying degrees of severity. Things like stress could be all that's causing it, or you could have some really bad things like a stroke or swelling of the brain. In that case, the hamster is probably not going to survive. In this case, the person that originally posted this said that this hamster was being moved, that this is not its normal cage that it resides in, so hopefully it's just stressed out, and that's the only reason that it's stargazing. After doing some research, I don't think we're ever going to know with 100% certainty what this is, but there are some theories, so let's talk about it. This video went insanely viral. It shows this woman walking down a trail, enjoying the beautiful scenery, but once she goes around this corner, she sees this figure sitting right in the middle of the trail, so she turns around promptly without saying anything and goes on her way. Now here's a closer look as to this weird figure that's sitting in the middle of the trail, and when I first see this, the first thing I think of is a person sitting on one of these small camping stools, potentially resting from the heat or just trying to take in the scenery. But while that's what I thought, there's a lot of people that seem to think this figure sitting in the middle of the trail was a mythical creature by the name of the Tokoloshi. This is a mischievous / malicious small evil spirit that is kind of like a dwarf size and has bad intentions. But to me, they don't really look very similar. Not gonna lie, there's really not a whole lot of information about this online, but there is some basic information that I'll get into here. This video really doesn't have a whole lot of context. We can see this person spitting out some liquid onto these palm leaves. It just looks like an inanimate object. But as it turns out, it is not an inanimate object, and instead we can see this dance take place. According to my research, this is known as a Kumpo dance. This takes place a couple of times a year in places like Senegal and Gambia. Now the Kumpo is a mythological figure here, so you're not supposed to be able to see the person that's underneath, and there's an interpreter off to the side. The Kumpo will relay information to the interpreter, who tells it to the crowd. I also saw a lot of people thinking that there was nobody inside of this and that this is quite literally witchcraft, but I found another video so you guys can see there are definitely 2 feet down here. The dance is just very complicated and requires a lot of time to master it. Okay, this is absolutely ridiculous. It should go without saying this isn't possible, but at first, you can't help but wonder. It appears as though this trend is resurfacing. In this Impacto music video, this person can be seen cutting open some poultry, and on the inside there's a completely random surprise, a miniature roast chicken. Now surprisingly, I did see a lot of people in the comments stating that this chicken was pregnant. Hopefully they're joking, but chickens do not give birth in this way. As we all know, they lay eggs, and from the eggs come chicks, so that's not possible. Rather, what I think people are discounting here is the fact that there are different types of chickens. You have large roast chickens that can weigh up to 7 pounds, and then you have smaller broiler chickens that can be as small as 2 pounds. It would be really easy to stuff one of these inside of this one. So my guess is this person stuffed one of these smaller chickens inside of the larger one instead of putting standard stuffing to make this illusion.
If you see this, do not touch it.
I'll agree, this doesn't look 100% real, but there is actually a creature that looks exactly like this that this could be if it is real. The clip that you guys just watched shows these 3 spots of red slime. The person recording then puts their finger next to it, and as it turns out, this slime is alive and actually moves away from the person's finger. And the only thing this mass could be, if the video is not fake of course, are tubifex worms. Tubifex worms are also known as sludge worms or sewage worms. You guys probably remember we've talked about these pretty frequently, and they live in water that has decaying organic matter. Tubifex worms themselves are not directly harmful to humans, but if you do see these in any of your water sources, especially ones that you're close to, you probably want to have that tested because that means the water's not clean. Tubifex worms are also able to react to stimuli like this guy's finger, so that's what makes me think that's what it possibly could be.
Why do spiders' legs move after death?
I don't want to be that dude, but actually, this is probably not a spider's leg. This TikTok video that I got tagged in shows this spider's leg laying on the ground. The caption says, "I didn't know spider's limbs did this after being squished," and we can see this leg clearly twitching and moving around. Getting right into it, this more than likely is not a spider's leg because their legs do not have the ability to move after being removed. That's because their legs do not have muscle, it operates on a hydraulic system. So instead of a spider's leg, I believe that we're actually looking at a harvestman's leg or a daddy long leg, whatever you want to call it. Harvestmen do actually have muscle in their legs, therefore when their legs come off, they will still move. What's more, the harvestman is able to remove legs on purpose as a defensive measure to distract predators from going after their body, and instead they go after the leg that's twitching around. Now obviously I know the person that filmed this crushed the harvestman.
Nothing beats a Jet 2 holiday. And right now,
I don't know who was responsible for this, and I don't really want to throw blame, but this definitely should not have happened. This TikTok that I got tagged in went extremely viral with 4.4 million likes. In it, we can see a bounty house getting picked up by the wind. At first, you think it's empty, and then two kids end up falling out around 25 to 30 feet. Now, this incident happened recently in South Africa, and somehow, at least according to the article that I watched, the kids that fell from this were not seriously injured. And honestly, that's very lucky because there have been a decent amount of incidents where these bouncy houses have been picked up by strong winds and kids have fallen and actually died. So to prevent something like this from happening, there are two things that you need to do and it won't happen. First off, make sure that you stake it down properly. Do not skimp out and use tiny stakes. Use something strong enough to hold it down. And second, check the weather forecast and make sure it's not windy.
Never put ice into a deep fryer.
I solemnly swear on my life, I am not the person who cut the video off here. That was the original creator. This video shows something that you should never do. It shows this guy saying, "I'm fed up with my job." He grabs the basket for a deep fryer, fills the basket with ice, and then right before plunging it into the boiling oil, the video cuts off. Now, I wouldn't necessarily consider this to be a trend, but there have been a variety of videos of people doing this because they think it's funny, when in reality, it's quite dangerous. That's because when you drop ice into a deep fryer, the oil is so hot, the ice instantly melts and turns into steam. The steam will then rapidly expand, carrying oil particles with it, popping in the air and spreading this burning hot oil everywhere. This has the potential not only to burn people that are in close proximity to this mess, but also to create a lot of property damage and in some cases even cause fires. Rest assured, I will not be showing you guys actual images from this because it's so disturbing, but if you want to, you can look them up yourself. This is another Impacto music video that I got tagged in that shows a short snippet from an old documentary, but in it we can see this dog's head attached to this weird contraption, and then we find out that this contraption actually exists. Back in the 1930s, this man by the name of Sergei Bruganenko decided to start experimenting on bringing organisms back to life after they'd been declared clinically dead. To do this, he used this disturbing contraption by the name of the autojector that enabled blood to be pumped throughout the dog's body without the heart necessarily having to do any work. Reports vary, but some of these dog heads were rumored to have been kept alive for hours without anything attaching itself to a body, and there were whole dogs brought to clinical death that had their bodies and they were brought back to life with the autojector and lived full lives.
Whatever this is, it's pretty creepy.
Full disclosure, I am not 100% sure what this is, but I do have a pretty good idea. This TikTok video that I got tagged in shows this person paddleboarding in a body of water, and we can see this white creature just underneath the surface. It then passes right underneath the paddleboard, and we're really not able to tell what this is because of the waves on the water. Now, it was really difficult to spot any features on this creature below the water, but based off of what I saw, I believe that it's a Medusa jellyfish. For context, a Medusa jellyfish is not a specific type of jellyfish, it's actually a portion of the life cycle of a jellyfish. Most of them have this Medusa phase. That being said, this video was recorded in South America, and there are some pretty large jellyfish down here that do look relatively similar. This one's obviously beached, but if I had to guess the specific type of jellyfish, I'd probably guess a South American sea nettle.
Why would anyone get into the dryer?
Boy, is this alcohol?
Excuse me? Throw back to the time I got stuck in the tumble dryer? You're insane. I really hope this video is set up for views, not real, because in it, we can see this person inside of a tumble dryer trying to get out and obviously being quite unsuccessful. Now, washer and dryers, especially tumble washer and dryers, are quite dangerous when it comes to kids because they're curious and they might go inside and get themselves stuck. The biggest risk if you do get stuck inside of a washer and dryer is obviously the heat if it's running, but on top of that, the risk of suffocation and electrocution. Most of the time, kids are the ones who end up in these situations, oftentimes from playing games like hide and seek, and they, if they're lucky, get rescued. But on occasion, people will try to fit into them as dares. This girl got stuck, I know, ironic. Or to challenge themselves, I guess. But really, I hope this person just stuck their phone inside and was pretending to be stuck.
This animal isn't scary. It's actually cute.
Sorry about that, guys. Was not intending to jump scare you. This actually got me the first time I watched it too. This TikTok that I got tagged in shows a creature that we have talked about before, just in a different setting, hanging off of this stick, then falling to the ground, and finally jumping towards the camera extremely quickly, so fast that it makes you flinch. Now, despite the fact this does look somewhat creepy, these creatures known as colugos or flying lemurs are actually quite cute and they're harmless. Colugos are mammals that are native to Southeast Asia, so if you don't live here, you've probably never seen them before. There are only 2 types of them, and they're actually relatively evolutionarily close to primates. These guys are obviously very easily characterized by the fact that they have these flaps of skin that allow them to glide from tree to tree, higher and lower, but in my opinion, the most unique feature about them are their teeth that look just like combs.
What is that? It's a body. Look, it surely is. That's a person. That's crazy. We're not supposed to see that.
These videos have been popping up every single day, going super viral, and still, they're not convincing me that anything weird is going on. The clip that you guys just watched shows this group of people driving on the highway when they look up into this cloud and notice something very strange. There appears to be a figure standing on the cloud walking, and the people inside think that this is actually a person walking on this cloud. And this is not new. Phenomena like this has been occurring for quite some time. People have actually recorded it, but every single time, no matter how much these look like humans or other animals in the clouds, that's not the case. It's just not possible. First off, this cloud is really far away, miles away from the camera that's recording this, so if this were an actual person, it would be hundreds of feet, if not over 1,000 feet tall. Second, the figure in the cloud is not moving, it's literally standing still. And third, clouds move so often that it's bound to look like a human at some point. It's normal.
Can someone tell me what these crabs are?
I have no idea why I'm just now being tagged in this video because it was recorded back in 2022, but fair enough. This TikTok video that I got tagged in shows these people running up on a large group of crabs on the beach, picking up a massive handful and asking a simple question, what are these? The simple answer for those that want to scroll right now, these are known as soldier crabs. They're really small and found in places like Australia and in some places Bengal. Going a little bit more in depth though, there are 2 different types of crabs that make up the soldier crab group. We first have these, Mycteris longicarpus, and we have these guys that look slightly different, Mycteris platycheles. Both of these are actually edible, though humans don't consume them that often. I will say though, it is surprising that they are edible because they're blue, and usually we all know things in nature that are neon or brightly colored usually are dangerous to consume.
Can someone tell me why this tree is filming?
Yeah, just like the original video, I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of people making jokes here, but this is normal. This TikTok that I got tagged in shows this woman walking up to a tree, and at the base of the tree we can see a mass of foam. She then pans up the tree, we can see the foam running down, and not a single person in the comments on the original video knew what was happening. Now, when it rains, it is actually very common for foam to build up at the base of trees. That's because there's typically a lot of sediment on trees. The rainwater mixes with this sediment and it creates foam, kind of similar to how organic decaying material in the ocean also creates foam. That is 99.9% likely what's happening here. There are also other scenarios though, like fungal infections or bacterial infections in trees that can create a foam-like sap. However, this is going to be much different than the other one, and this only happens when it rains. Pretty much everyone I know believes in Bigfoot for some reason, but I am not one of those people, and this video right here certainly does not convince me otherwise. This is some new footage that has surfaced claiming that they have captured Bigfoot officially on camera. And right here in the center of the frame, we can see something that looks like an ape, but realistically, this looks like more of a man inside of a costume. For years, people have claimed to have captured Bigfoot on camera or in these different forest locations, and 99% of the time, they're disproven pretty easily. Really, the only Bigfoot video that I can think of that hasn't been 100% disproven, though it's unlikely to be real, is the Patterson-Gimlin film that was recorded back in 1967, the classic Bigfoot film. To me, it really just doesn't make sense for Bigfoot to even exist, because while the wilderness is vast, it would be pretty hard to not find a community of large creatures that look like apes. If you ever happen to visit this bridge with your dog, always make sure they're on a leash, otherwise they might die. This is a short TikTok slideshow that I got tagged in, starting off with an image of a dog jumping off of a bridge, and the caption, POV, you go to a bridge in Scotland, but you see a bunch of dead dogs. Now the bridge that this caption is referring to is this one right here, known as the Overton Bridge, located in Scotland, and it has a pretty bad rap for being the dog sewer side bridge. I can't say it correctly. That's because since the 1950s, there have been reportedly around 300 to 600 dogs that have jumped off into the 50-foot chasm below to their deaths. Now, a lot of people think that there might be something supernatural causing these dogs to jump off, like the spirit of Lady Overton, who used to own this area, but in reality, it's thought there might be minks that are somewhere next to the wall, and the dogs are attracted to the smell, so they jump.
What happens when you don't mitigate after a flood?
I'm sorry, man, but you just cannot let this happen to your house. This is terrible. This TikTok that I got tagged in has to show the worst case of mold that I have ever seen, at least when it comes to a house that's not been abandoned for 20 years. As you guys can see, the mold is so bad that this ceiling fan is completely drooped, and we can even see small mold specks in the back on all of the walls. Now, this type of mold is very consistent with flooding. If your house floods and you don't properly clean it up, mold is going to show up no matter what you do, and you're going to be looking at tens of thousands of dollars, if not more, down the drain. So if your house does flood, make sure that you do these steps right here. You can pause the video just in case and do it as soon as possible. Also, if you really want to mitigate risk, just call in some professionals to help you clean it up and prevent the mold from taking root. Based on what we're seeing here, pretty much all of these walls will have to be replaced.
This is not funny, it's actually tragic.
When people throw goofy sound effects,
Always beware of the black rain.
black rain really does sound like a very ominous thing, but unfortunately, it's not real. That's not what's going on here. This video was sent to me on Facebook. In it, we can see this guy wearing a jacket. It looks white, and then we get these black splotches showing up, consistent with what look like black raindrops falling on it. Obviously, though, black rain doesn't really exist. In reality, the material the jacket itself is made out of is responsible for the color change. And this is something you guys have all probably seen before, hydrochromic material. Hydrochromic material is unique in the fact that every time a small bit of water lands on the material, it changes the way the light reflects off of it and therefore makes it appear as though it's changing color. It's kind of similar to those thermochromic pencils that we used to get back in the day where it would react to heat, and if you held it in your hand, it would change color. Same principle, more or less. I don't even need to be here. Just reading about this story is enough for me to be able to smell and think about how bad this would be. This slideshow has 3 different images. The first image shows a Seafood City supermarket, and the other 2 images show people dressed up in these biohazard suits cleaning up the seafood market. For some context, Seafood City was obviously a seafood supermarket that was abandoned back in March of 2023. Initially, townspeople didn't really notice much, but behind the scenes, the people that own this left behind tons of fish, literal tons. Because the freezers were no longer running in Seafood City, the seafood obviously started to rot, and I don't know if you guys have ever been around rotting seafood, but it is one of the most disgusting smells you could ever smell in your life. Townspeople eventually complained, eventually it was cleaned, but again, this was a super big health hazard and just really gross overall.
This lion is already dead, it just doesn't know it.
Yes, guys, unfortunately, this video does not have a happy ending. This video that I got tagged in shows a lioness during her last few moments on Earth. In this video, she's seen roaring at the air, opening and closing her mouth, and rolling around on the ground in what looks to be seizures. All of these symptoms, when left untreated, are indicative of an extremely deadly bite from an extremely deadly snake known as the black mamba. The black mamba is famously referred to as Africa's deadliest snake, and when left untreated, this is 100% fatal in humans. If you were bit by a black mamba, within 45 minutes you would collapse and have a very difficult time moving. From here, the next 7 to 15 hours would be excruciating pain, you having seizures, convulsions, unable to do anything until eventually, after this time window, you do end up leaving this realm. Fortunately, being bit by one as a human does not guarantee your death as long as you get antivenom.
If you find this on the beach, take it home.
In almost all scenarios, if you find something that looks like this on the beach, you should take it home because it could be worth a lot of money. While walking along the beach, this guy discovered a chunk of a yellow and waxy substance that weighed around 3.5 kilograms or 8 pounds for those that use the imperial system. And you might notice that this substance looks a lot like ambergris, which is something we've been talking about recently. And ambergris is extremely valuable. As a quick recap, this is essentially sperm whale vomit, and it's so valuable because of its pungent smell that's used in fragrances, and it's extremely hard to find. Now, a 3.5 kilogram chunk would fetch this guy well over $100,000, but after testing, he found out that this is most likely just paraffin wax. And a lot of people confuse paraffin wax they find on the beach, which is relatively common, with ambergris because they do look similar. But the real kicker is this. I don't understand what the big deal is about the Denver airport. A lot of people think it's haunted, and this video certainly is not helping. The person that recorded this claims that they were in this A66 terminal all by themselves when randomly the intercom turned on, and we hear this weird transmission through the speakers. You can't even make out what's being said, but it does sound quite creepy. And a lot of people were eating this up, especially because it mentioned the Denver airport. Ever since its inception, a lot of people have had a lot of conspiracy theories about it. There are super weird art installations in here, like these gargoyles at the baggage claim. People theorize that the Illuminati lives inside of the Denver airport, that there are lizard people in here, so much so that they make jokes about it now. But this video shows none of that. TikTok themselves disproved this, because TikTok auto-detected the audio that was used on this video, and apparently it's from a song, Madness of the Gods by Guillotine AD, not an original recording. Regardless of whether or not that video is fake though, there are certainly a lot of people that still believe strange things happen there and claim they've seen it themselves. What do you guys think?
If you see this, you are very lucky.
I can't blame these guys at all. This is 100% something that I would take my clothes off for and run in as well. This is a video that was sent to me through Facebook DM. In it, we can see these guys standing on the side of the road, and we can see this stream of water coming from the sky. And you might be tempted to think they're standing underneath a waterfall or something, but no, it is coming from the sky. Now, of course, all of us have experienced rain. Usually when that happens, it's going to be spread out through a wide area, potentially a city, or maybe even statewide. But under the right conditions, you can have something known as a cloudburst, and this is basically just a very localized spot where rain is falling, and everywhere else around it is dry. I don't know if you guys remember this video going viral a couple of years ago as well, but here's another example of rain just falling in this random spot on the street. This is much smaller than a standard cloudburst though. I think it would be better to refer to this as ultra-localized rainfall.
Most people are seeing this incorrectly.
Boy, is this alcohol?
I would be willing to bet that 99% of the people watching this video are looking at these baby stingrays the wrong way. So this video went viral on TikTok, and it shows these 3 baby stingray that kind of look like ravioli with faces. People were leaving a bunch of funny comments about how their face looks like they're very disappointed, but here's the deal. This is not really its face. It's true that this is its mouth, but these right here, those are not the eyes. When it comes to baby stingray, it's not as obvious to see, but when you look at the adult and you look at these 2 little holes here, it becomes a little bit more clear. They don't really look like eyes, they look more like nostrils. The eyes of the stingray are actually on the top half of its body, and its mouth is down here, so it doesn't really have a localized face, it's flip-flopped. The nostrils are not for show either. It does allow the stingray to smell and figure out what's around it.
Whatever you do, don't fall into this.
Money!
Sorry, Santa. Sorry, guys. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but falling into this really wouldn't result in anything. This TikTok that I got tagged in shows this person, I believe, kiteboarding up to this ring that's sitting in the middle of the ocean. The clip then shows him standing on this railing, and a ton of people were concerned, stating that this guy is about to fall into a shark cage. Like, they're saying sharks are inside of there. Well, first off, that makes zero sense. This is the only type of shark cage that actually exists. The sharks are on the outside, people are on the inside. Even so though, this is definitely not a standard shark cage either. This is actually an aquaculture farm. They have these little pens that are out sitting in the ocean, and this is where a lot of farmed fish come from. They come in a couple different shapes as well, as you guys can see, but the idea all around is the same. This allows us to produce more fish and not run out.
Do not cut this part of your nail.
I know people tend to do quite a bit in grooming, especially with their nails, trying to make them look good, but I don't know if I could get behind this. This video that I got tagged in on TikTok has the caption, "This is how you get rid of your cuticles." It shows the cuticle here, and this use of very small scissors going around and cutting it off, but this is not recommended. So the information online is not extremely clear, and it does appear that there are some differing views here, but generally the cuticle is this dead skin right here. This is not the cuticle, and that's what they cut off. Even when it comes to the actual cuticle itself, it still really isn't recommended to cut it off or get rid of it because it acts as a natural barrier for your nail bed, and it helps to prevent things like bacterial infections and fungal infections. You increase the risk when you remove it. If you really want to, you can gently push it back after using warm water, but still, why?
This man could win a Darwin Award.
Apologies, I really don't want to be too harsh on you, but this has to be one of the worst ideas I've ever seen. This video shows a potential future Darwin Award contender hanging off the back of a boat right next to the engine, and while this might look fun, it is very dangerous. So at first, I wanted to give this guy the benefit of the doubt and assume that he was hanging out next to an outboard jet motor. This wouldn't be as bad, but I believe I found the exact model that was on this boat, and as you guys can see, there are blades on it, and even though they're small, they can do a lot of damage. Now don't get me wrong, it would still be a terrible idea to hang off the back of a boat, even with a jet outboard motor. There's no moving components, but it's just dangerous. There are so many videos though of people accidentally climbing onto boats while the propeller is still moving and having pieces of their body cut off. And this guy is willingly putting himself in that situation. Look, I totally understand that this would be a very freaky situation, but to be honest, this is a little bit of an overreaction given the type of animal we're dealing with here. This video shows a terrified young man hanging off the side of a boat as a massive sea creature approaches him. The guy is begging for his friends to pull him up, and this creature right here is actually a shark. But there's one catch. It's a whale shark. And while whale sharks are the single largest shark in the world, they actually pose zero threat to humans. That's because whale sharks are filter feeders. They suck in water, they sift through that water and find small creatures known as plankton, and this is how they get their sustenance. You might be concerned though that a whale shark might be able to potentially swallow a person, and while a person might be able to fit inside of the mouth, a person cannot fit inside of the throat, and you would be spit out relatively quickly.
If you see these, kill them immediately.
I'm assuming since posting this video, this person has at least tried to clear up this problem, but if you haven't, definitely do so. I actually specifically got tagged in this video from the original creator, so thank you for tagging me. It has the caption, "What the hell are these things in my kitchen?" And then we can see a bunch of these small white creatures everywhere. So what is more than likely in your kitchen are these small white mites known as grain mites or flour mites. As the name would suggest, these guys are going to be found on grains, and more often than not, those are going to be in your kitchen, so this is the most likely place you're going to see them. And while the mites themselves are not directly harmful to humans, they can cause your food to spoil quicker, they can spread mold around, and they can reduce the nutritional value because they consume the food. Not to mention you'd be eating mites if you didn't see them. If you do find these mites in your kitchen, you have to do a deep clean and pretty much throw everything out because it could all be contaminated.
This is what happens to the craziest people.
I honestly wouldn't be too convinced about that, Santa. I think something a little different's going on here. This is a video that was posted to TikTok that went extremely viral with nearly 4 million likes. In it, we can see this person in a straitjacket. There were a lot of people in the comments stating how unethical this was, that nobody in the world deserves this, but I really don't think they know what they're looking at here. So just a brief history of the straitjacket. These were obviously invented to hold people's arms in place, prevent them from moving, and when it came to insane asylums back in the day, these were very popular. A lot of these straitjackets, though, did not involve tying up the legs. It was most of the time just the upper body, and back in the 1950s and 60s, these were pretty much phased out completely. So there's only 2 times you'll see one of these nowadays. Number 1, in a prison, this is very rare still, or number 2, in certain communities where people actually enjoy doing this for pleasure, if you catch my drift. This is not my usual video that I would cover, but I do think the topic's interesting, so we're going to give it a stab. So this image of a dog has been going viral lately because it's supposedly creepy. That's because every time somebody looks at it, they either see a standard photo of a dog, which is what I see, or this weird dog-baby head hybrid. Now, if you can't see this, then just squint your eyes or like cover up the top here, and you should be able to make it come out. Being able to see this face, though, is not by accident. This is something pretty much every single human is born with. It's known as pareidolia. We've talked about pareidolia before, but it's a human's ability to be able to make out faces from innate objects or different stimuli that otherwise are not supposed to get that across. The ability to recognize faces and other objects in things that aren't supposed to be them is very normal for humans. It's something that we evolved with, and it's helped us survive so we can recognize things that are good or bad.
Why is nobody talking about this?
Sometimes I just feel like the dude that sucks the fun out of every video, but you know what? I can't help it. This video has been all over my For You page on TikTok. In it, we can see this well that's being dug, a guy at the bottom, and he's looking at this object that looks like exactly what you'd imagine the skull of a dragon to look like. This video was apparently recorded in Romania, and a bunch of people are taking this at face value. If it looks like a dragon skull, it must be a dragon skull. Now, I could go on a long-winded rant. I'm not going to do that, though. All I'll say is if dragons really did exist at some point in time, we would have found proof of them already. So that leaves us with 2 options. The skull of a dinosaur, because there are a lot of dinosaurs that have skulls that bear resemblances to mythological dragons. Or 2, and this is what I believe, a strange-shaped rock formation. There's a lot of rock formations out there that look like the heads of dragons or lizards, and they're not that.
This place belongs in a horror game.
Boiled alcohol.
This is surprising, I know, but technically that whole entire thing that you just saw is only one antenna. This is a relatively creepy video that was sent to me through Facebook DM. In it, we can see this large standing wall-like structure, and just by looking at it, you can tell this is an abandoned place. It looks like it belongs straight up in like an apocalypse movie or something. So this massive structure right here is known as the Russian woodpecker, but it's officially referred to as the Duga radar. It acted as an early warning radar for missile defense back in the 1970s, and eventually it was no longer functional by 1989. When it was operational, though, the Duga radar was extremely powerful. Many of the surrounding countries were able to pick up its transmissions, and it would even interrupt a lot of other countries' transmissions. It was kind of a nuisance. Also, for some true scale, here's a man standing next to it. It's mind-blowingly large. I'll be honest, I'm not a very big fan of centipedes, and I know most people watching this probably aren't, but I do think this is kind of overkill. This is another Impacto music video that I got tagged in that shows this centipede standing straight up. Everything seems normal at first, until we see this electricity coursing through this centipede's legs and it moving around frantically. Now, immediately upon watching this, I knew exactly what we were looking at. One of these miniature Tesla coils that people hold on their desks. You can place objects on it, and then any of the objects that you place on this will have these small electric arcs coming off of it. Now, large Tesla coils can be dangerous to humans and actually can burn and kill you, but smaller ones like this are not deadly at all, and they're tolerable on your skin. When it comes to bugs, though, it's a different story, and when they're alive, this is definitely not something you want to do, just because it's not really a moral thing to do. Man, I'm sorry. As it turns out, no, we're not looking at an asteroid hitting the moon, we're looking at some special effects. This TikTok video that I got tagged in shows the moon in the sky, relatively standard. We can see this shining object right here traveling towards the moon, And then it becomes apparent very quickly that we're looking at an asteroid. We can see this plume of dust popping up on the moon's surface, but everything here is not as it seems. I'm not too sure why, but for the past few years, people have been obsessed with creating these CGI versions of asteroids hitting the moon. We have a bunch of different variations, and every single time somebody posts a video like this, people take it at face value. Really though, this is what it actually looks like when an asteroid hits the moon. You'll notice it's much less spectacular than these videos make it seem. The reality is the moon is constantly being hit, however, it's just not very obvious, so a lot of these videos are fake. There were actually a lot of people upset with this video, but in reality, they're missing some pretty important context. This video that I got tagged in shows this penguin being released from a cage back into the wild on the beach. These two people then walk the penguin down to the edge of the water, but instead of jumping in and swimming away, the penguin looks at the two people confused, like it doesn't belong there. And this led a lot of people to believe this penguin was being left for dead, but again, that's not what's actually happening. The type of penguin seen in this video is actually a king penguin, and this king penguin was actually released back into the wild in Argentina after being treated for some injuries believed to be caused by a dog. And this might be something a lot of people didn't know, but king penguins do actually live in Argentina down here in Tierra del Fuego. In fact, there are a few different penguin species that live down here, so releasing that penguin in Argentina on the beach, not really a big deal. If there's anything this TikTok trend has taught me, it's the fact that there are way more abandoned stores out there than I ever even thought possible. This TikTok slideshow that I got tagged in first starts off with an image of Schuett's Market down in Illinois, and several images of the inside of the store, clearly not in great shape. So back in 2018, the Schuett family filed for bankruptcy, obviously causing them to lose their store. Instead of moving all of the perishable items out though, they just left it there for approximately 11 days. At first, nobody really noticed anything until the stench of rotting meat and dairy started permeating the area. Even worse, there was a business in the same building, Family Care Pharmacy, that attempted to block the smell out with a bunch of air fresheners. However, that did not work at all. After people really started complaining about the smell though, eventually it was cleaned up, but it wasn't an easy process figuring out who was responsible. Not sure if this is the new music video trend, but I am happy that it's not Impacto. I am getting a little tired of that song. This is honestly just a photo, not even a slideshow. In it, we get this pretty ominous and intense song. And in the background, we have an image of a very famous artillery gun. There are two reasons why this artillery gun is so famous. Number one, the person who decided to have it built, their name starts with an H and it was built back during World War II. You guys know what I'm talking about. And the second reason, this is the single largest gun in history. Known as the Schroeder Gustav, this gun was a railway gun and it weighed around 1,350 tons. The ammunition for this gun was absolutely massive as well, extremely expensive, and it had the capability of firing tens of miles. The only problem, wasn't very accurate. This is it firing, by the way. So at the end of the day, the gun was kind of a massive failure and more for show.
I don't blame them for putting it down.
The quality of life here would be absolutely horrible, so in this case, I actually do agree with neutralizing this fish. This is a video that was recently posted to TikTok. In it, we can see this fish that these guys caught, and shockingly, this fish was still alive despite missing all of its face and only having one eyeball. Now, I'm not sure if you guys recall, but pretty recently I did make a video talking about how resilient some fish are when it comes to getting really bad injuries. Fish missing their face, or at least portions of their face, is something that is somewhat documented online, and sometimes the fish are able to survive with this. And as far as things that could cause something like this, there's really only two options. Number one, some sort of strange mutation, or number two, an injury that it got from maybe a more predatory fish, or even a boat propeller. Either way, again, the quality of life for this fish would be pretty low. It doesn't really have a functioning mouth.
If you see this, do not kill it.
This is one of those few times where a creature looks like it could kill you, but in reality it's harmless. So the clip that you guys just watched shows this wasp sitting on the edge of this wood, and there's one very obvious thing. There appears to be a huge stinger sticking out here. A lot of people were making jokes calling it a stabbing wasp, not a stinging wasp, but in reality, this actually is not a stinger at all. The wasp that we're looking at here is known as a giant ichneumon wasp, or more informally, a stump stabber wasp. That's because this massive stinger-looking object is actually an ovipositor, which means this is what it uses to deposit its eggs. Based on the name as well, stump stabber, you can surmise that the ovipositor gets stabbed into wood, and this is where those eggs are laid, eventually for the young to hatch and continue the life cycle. So despite their menacing look, they do not have the ability to sting humans at all. They are quite literally harmless.
There is a body submerged in the water.
Getting this out of the way right now, I have no idea what this is. I only have a couple ideas, so you guys feel free to chime in the comments below. This video was reportedly recorded in Myanmar. Obviously, we can see this body of water, and right here, something that looks a little freaky. We can see what looks to be the outline of a human figure submerged underwater with this joke caption, "Girl, the earthquake's so bad, the mermaid is coming up." Now, right away, the first thing that comes to mind when seeing this human figure underwater is this super famous Jason Voorhees submerged figure. This is located in a mine pit in Crosby, Minnesota, about 120 feet underwater, and obviously it's there for the shock factor and kind of as a joke. The second thing that comes to mind are potentially these underwater statues. They're relatively common around the world. And if it's none of those, it's either an actual person or potentially some sort of sea creature that, with the reflection of the water here, kind of just looks like a person.
This is terrifying for the wrong reasons.
You know what? This should absolutely terrify you guys, and not because of what's happening in this video. It goes a lot deeper. This video went super viral, was posted to TikTok, and got over 2 million likes. It claims to show a lion that walked into a supermarket in South Africa. And while this is pretty shocking, it's not outside of the realm of reality, so a lot of people took this at face value, but there's one problem. When you go to do some research and try to find an article about this, there is nothing except for social media videos on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And that's because this didn't actually happen. If you guys look closer at the caption here, it's labeled as AI-generated content. In fact, the account that posted this video, their entire account is AI-generated content. It's a little bit more obvious on these ones, but this one looks very realistic. And this is terrifying because it's only going to get harder to tell reality from AI. We need to start getting watermarks on this mandatory ASAP. Well, it has been some time, so we're finally going to check back in with the dark web sneakers. So to catch you guys up to speed, about 2.5 weeks ago, there was a website that went viral online for selling sneakers. The website was called The Shoe Man, Keeper of Souls, and it had a lot of people freaked out because the shoes obviously look well worn. There's actual names for the shoes as well as ages. So people thought potentially these shoes represented people that might have been killed by a serial killer or something like that. Well, this guy ended up buying a pair of those shoes, creating a bunch of videos off of it, and in his most recent video, he discovered a tracker hidden inside of the soles of one of these boots that he bought from the website. The website has since been taken down, nobody's able to access it, but at this point, I think that there's a lot of coincidence lining up here, and it just seems a little bit too good to be true. I think my original theory is correct, that this was a whole setup. Even though this is a piece in a museum, this, do not worry, is not real. This is a TikTok slideshow that I got tagged in that has 3 different images. The first image shows this absolutely ridiculous skeleton. It honestly reminds me of this meme. An image showing the blueprint of this skeleton, and finally the name, the Magdeburg unicorn. So these bones were discovered back in the 17th century in Magdeburg, Germany, inside of a cave. And the bones were identified to be belonging to a unicorn by a man named Otto. This was the resulting structure that he created. This is oftentimes referred to as the worst fossil reconstruction ever, not only because it looks ridiculous, but because it's created using the bones of 3 different animals, a woolly rhinoceros, a woolly mammoth, and obviously a narwhal for the horn. The recreation can still be found in the Magdeburg Museum of Natural History. You guys already know the drill. Another day, another abandoned store. Let's get into it. This TikTok slideshow has 3 different images. The first image shows this little counter right here filled to the brim with dead flies. The second image shows the exact same thing, dead flies on this window pasted right behind this sanitary inspection. And the third image, the inside of this storefront with a bunch of black plastic bags. The setting for this rotting abandoned store was a Popeyes back in 2011 located in Brooklyn. The owner completely abandoned this store, likely due to financial instability, and as a result, all of the chicken inside of the store as well as other food items started rotting, so it became ground zero for one of the worst fly infestations I've ever seen. Many of the residents nearby complained that the store smelled like something had died inside. Fortunately, the Popeyes was cleaned up pretty quickly.
This is quite literally impossible.
Money!
You guys remember 4 or 5 years ago those videos, glitches caught in real life? Well, this was one of those popular things that would always get posted, but there is actually a logical explanation behind it. Pretty cut and dry video here. We can see a helicopter that's airborne, flying normally, other than the fact that the blades are not moving. So this isn't due to any editing or anything really crazy. It's pretty standard. These types of videos online are a dime a dozen, and they all have to do with the frame rate of a camera versus how quickly the blades on a helicopter are spinning. A frame rate of a camera is basically how many photos per second are taken in order to make a video. The more photos, the more smooth the video is going to be. And if the frame rate matches the rate of speed for the blade spinning, then think about it like the camera taking an image every single time the blade's in the exact same spot. That makes it look like it's standing still when in fact it's actually moving. I watch soccer with my girlfriend pretty frequently. Most of the time, a lot of these guys are flopping and just trying to draw cards and fouls, but this is one of the rare times where the reaction is totally warranted. This is another Impacto music video posted to TikTok. In it, we can see these two players who are opposing, they're about to collide, and after the collision, the guy in blue can be seen rolling around on the ground. And again, this is not an overreaction. So the guy seen rolling around on the ground is this guy, Ewald Leinen. He was from Germany, and back in 1981 is when he suffered one of the most grisly soccer injuries ever. Of course, I can't show the unblurred photo, but the entire side of Ewald's leg here got fully sliced open. You could see the muscles, ligaments, and pretty much everything. He did get treatment immediately though. Of course, got a bunch of stitches, and only 17 days later, he was back to playing and practicing again. The term ghost plane is something that very few people are probably familiar with, and I could tell you right now, you would not want to be on a ghost plane. This TikTok slideshow that I got tagged in went super viral. The first image shows this Helios plane, as well as this fighter jet. The next image shows passengers passed out in their seats, and the final image is pretty similar to the first. For context, back in 2005, Helios Airlines Flight 522 turned into a ghost plane, which is when everyone inside of the plane is incapacitated, meaning they're not functioning or there, and the plane just flies by itself through autopilot until it runs out of fuel. That's exactly what happens here. The cabin pressurization system in this plane was set to manual, so when the plane got up to a proper height, everyone passed out due to a lack of oxygen. One flight attendant that was awake did attempt to fix the plane but ran out of fuel and crashed.
If you see this in your food, don't eat it.
While I will agree this is very off-putting and something that you would not want to find in your food, I think this is less of a big deal than people are making it out to be. This TikTok video recently went really viral, showing this person who's bought themselves a Chipotle bowl, and inside of this bowl we can clearly see a green maggot. Specifically, I think we're probably looking at a hoverfly maggot, not that that really makes much of a difference, because it appears that a lot of people have been discovering bugs, caterpillars, and other larvae inside of their Chipotle bowls. So what's going on? Well, the reality of the situation is Chipotle apparently gets their romaine lettuce fresh, they hand wash it and cut it up. There's obviously bound to be insects that are going to be in that if they're getting fresh heads of romaine lettuce. And it's not just Chipotle. Bug particles, as well as entire bugs, are commonly found in a lot of different everyday items that people consume. You just aren't seeing them.
If this runs at you, don't kill it.
All right, everyone, you need to calm down. These guys, they're not harmful at all. Just leave them be. This video terrified pretty much everybody that watched it. It shows this guy kicking some sand into this bush, and then something that looks like it crawled straight out of the depths of hell starts running towards the cameraman. People wanted him to squash it, but guys, this really is not harmful. We've talked about this creature a ton. What we're looking at is known as a wind scorpion, sand spider, sun scorpion. There's a bunch of different variations, but in general, this is the creature right here. These guys can be found in a variety of different climates, usually in more dry and arid climates though. And while they're extremely fast and look very scary, they do not have a venomous bite. The most they can do is pinch you. And even then, the bite really is not going to hurt that bad. These guys would much rather stay away from you. They are afraid of you, so just leave them be.
Motherfucker tried to attack me. I already had it on its back with my nail once because it bit the fuck out of me.
You know, this is kind of a weird, almost sadistic thing to do, but go off, I guess. It's your choice. Now, this was quite an odd video that somebody tagged me in. This ant right here apparently bit the person who's recording the video. So to retaliate, this person forcefully removed every single one of the ant's legs, as well as its abdomen. Now, there's a couple things that I want to address. First off, I believe the type of ant that we're seeing here, because it's so large, is a carpenter ant. These guys do have a pretty painful bite, and finding these in your house is bad. It could signify an infestation that you don't see yet, so you probably should check that out. The second thing that I want to address is the fact that people in the comments think that this is horrifying for the other ants and they're not going to mess with the person after they saw what happened to their comrade. No, dude, ants are ruthless. This is pretty normal for them to get their limbs torn off from opposing ants, so they don't care and suffer. There are ways to do this that are both quick and cheap, and that's exactly what you should do in this case instead of doing this.
Never mess with a compressed spring.
Boy, this alcohol.
You might as well just say goodbye to that finger. You're not going to be using that for quite a while. This video was posted to numerous social media platforms, and it really highlights the danger of spring compression. As you guys can see, this guy is working with a spring, and his finger ends up getting pinched right here. So what exactly happened? The first thing to understand here is spring compression is actually useful for removing springs or adding them back in because it's smaller, more compact, and you have greater control over it. The only issue here is that a lot of people consider this to be a very sketchy thing to do, seeing as there's so much potential energy inside of one of these springs when they're compressed. So if you incorrectly compress a spring, sometimes it will pop open, and in this case, these little hooks that compressed the spring ended up moving together, crushing his finger. This is honestly best case scenario though when it comes to spring compression injuries. These things are very powerful. You could have the darkest pair of sunglasses in the entire world. Honestly, it wouldn't even matter. This would blind you completely. This is a 4-image TikTok slideshow that I got tagged in, starting off by saying brightest thing in the universe, showing an image of a city with the sun shining down on it, then a quasar shining down on it, how they're formed, and a real image of a quasar. You know, a lot of the time these slideshows are over-exaggerating about these things, but this time it's 100% correct. The brightest objects in the entire universe are these guys, quasars. This is the exact layout of a quasar. We first have a supermassive black hole in the center. These are very large black holes. We then have a bunch of particles swirling around on the outside, creating something known as an accretion disk. And as the particles swirl around and get pulled in, a bunch of energy is released in the form of light, X-rays, you name it. It would fry anything next to it to a crisp. While this is a very fascinating concept, put simply, this is fiction. It's not true. This is a 2-image TikTok slideshow that I got tagged in, starting off by saying, did you know what secret the other side of the moon holds? It then shows a supposed image of this with the caption, no one knew that there was a huge spot behind the moon. This right here is exactly what everyone on Earth is used to seeing at nighttime, and this is always the way it is. Occasionally there's a little bit of variation, but for the most part, we do not see the backside. And it was that way all the way up until 1959, when a Russian space probe ended up taking the first image of the far side of the moon. Now, of course, we have much higher resolution images. You guys can see the difference here. One thing you'll notice is that the far side of the moon looks very different. It has much more rugged terrain, there are a lot more craters, and that's because it gets hit by asteroids more often, and the sediment is different up here.